How's it going? My name is Cam, and today I'm going to show you how to install CachyOS. So let's get started. I'm making this video for any Windows user who would not like to use Windows anymore because of the bloat that it comes with, or the AI assistant that it comes with, or whatever your reason for it is. Linux is a great alternative to the big corporations' operating systems like Mac and Windows. I'm not going to go over all of the benefits or reasons why you would want to switch to Linux, but there is a video that I will recommend in the description of this video. However, today I'm making this video solely for anybody who wants to get into Linux or just try it on their own. I'm going to be using a virtual machine, which is essentially a computer inside of a computer. If you don't know what that is, you don't have to do this, but I very much recommend doing this if you are going to switch over to Linux at some point, or if you are thinking about it, just to test it out without fully committing, without wiping your hard drive, without installing a new operating system on your actual computer. You can install it on a virtual computer, test around with it, mess around with it. Today, the virtualization software I'm going to be using is Oracle VirtualBox, which is, I think, the most popular virtualization software, and it's free. Runs on Windows, Linux, Mac, anything. I think. I don't know about Mac, not too sure about that. However, you'll want to go over to this link in the description as well and download Oracle VirtualBox for your operating system. So after you've downloaded and installed Oracle VirtualBox, you'll want to go over here to CachyOS.org and click download. I'm assuming most people are going to be using the desktop edition. The handheld edition is for something like the Steam Deck or the ROG Ally. There's also a new Lenovo device that recently came out, which is sort of like a Steam Deck as well. We're going to download the desktop edition. We're going to download the direct. If you have a torrent downloader, I recommend using the torrent. However, I don't have one right now. I'm just going to use the direct download it to my downloads folder, and we're going to let that download. It's going to take a minute because it's about a 3 GB file, so it's going to take a minute depending on your download speed. Mine is not great, so I'm going to go ahead and just speed this part up. I do want to mention, if you are downloading this to install on your hardware directly, not on a virtual machine, you will want to install another program if you're on Windows called Rufus, and that will allow you to flash the ISO file to a flash drive, or write it to a flash drive basically, so that you can boot your computer from that flash drive with this same installation process that you're going to see in just a moment. I will be linking Rufus in the description as well. Today I'm not going to be showing that process, however, it is very simple. Alright, and it is done. So the next resource you're going to want is the CachyOS wiki, which is wiki.cachios.org. I will also be linking that in the description. The installation guide will be down here, desktop edition, if you want to skip straight to that. However, I'm going to be going over the system requirements real quick. The minimum requirements is 3 GB of RAM, 30 GB of storage, and a stable internet connection. The recommended requirements is 8 GB of RAM, 50 GB of storage, a times 86 times 864 V3 capable CPU, 50 megabytes per second or better internet speed, and an NVIDIA GPU or an AMD GPU. Most people have a GPU, and these are like really low specs for GPUs, so anybody should be able to run this pretty easily on new or old hardware. An example of the Rufus program, this is a different program that does the same thing for Linux, but if you would like, the USB preparation instructions are down here on the requirements and USB preparation. Alright, once you've got VirtualBox installed, go ahead and open it up and you'll be greeted with this screen here. First, you're going to want to click New and name your virtual machine whatever you'd like. I'm going to name mine CachyOS. You can choose the folder you would like it to create the virtual machine in, and that will take up however much space you choose, which you'll see in just a moment. The ISO image, you're going to want to go ahead and click Other. Mine did already have the CachyOS ISO. If yours does not, go ahead and just click the Other button and find your CachyOS ISO file. Once you've got that in there, go ahead and choose Linux as the OS. Arch Linux is what CachyOS is based off of. Next, the requirements, as we mentioned before, the minimum is 3 gigabytes, the recommended is 8, so I'm going to go ahead and give it about 8 gigabytes of memory. I'm going to give it 2 CPUs, and I'm going to allocate 30 gigabytes as it says in the recommended for the minimum. I'm just doing the minimum because I don't have a lot of space on my drive. We're going to go ahead and make sure you click Use Extended Firmware Interface, EFI. Make sure you select that. I made the grave mistake of not selecting that, and I had to re-record this entire section of the video, which is why I'm in a different clothing attire, because it's a new day. I had to go to work. Anyway, that's besides the point. Once you've got all that, we're going to go ahead and just verify all this looks the same. Make sure you try and follow this as close as possible. If you're doing a virtual machine, you can kind of mess around with the memory allocation and the hard disk allocation. Go ahead and click Finish. And once that's done, in your VirtualBox, you'll see your virtual machine here. I'm going to go into the settings real quick and just double check everything looks right for my setup here. For mine, I'm also going to increase my video memory to the maximum. Go ahead and leave mostly everything else the same. I'm going to go ahead and click USB 3.0 for the USB control. Everything else should be okay to leave the same. Go ahead and click OK, and we can either double click right here or click Start. And this is going to start the virtual computer. It's going to automatically select CachyOS as long as you don't click anything. And you can remove these messages here, full screen it, whatever you'd like. Just let it do its thing for a minute. If it says failed at any point, you should be fine. It often in Linux, you will see in the terminal that it says like something failed, but everything seems to work fine afterwards. Usually should look relatively similar, or identical rather, and it may take a minute, especially if you're using a virtual machine. I am going to make another video for anybody who would like to install this directly on their hardware. I will link that in the description once I get that made. It will definitely come out after this video. So alright, once you've got this far, you will go ahead and click Launch Installer. And sometimes if we, yeah, there we go. If we unfull screen it and then refull screen it, it'll resize to the entire screen for the virtual machine. Go ahead and choose your language, click Next, choose your region and time zone, your keyboard layout, and this is where we're going to be selecting our bootloader. Personally, on my computer, I use Limeline. Limeline is a modern advance. Obviously, you can read. I don't know how to explain a bootloader exactly to you. However, what I can say is Limeline works for my setup between dual booting between Windows 11 and CachyOS. You can do your research on the different bootloaders. There is a whole section on the CachyOS wiki here about boot managers. Next, we're going to be choosing our partitioning for our operating system, I guess. The CachyOS wiki recommends that you do manual partitioning. Once again, I very much recommend following this installation guide very closely for your specific setup and situation with hardware and whatnot. since we're using Limelight today, and we have the EFI, UEFI selection for our virtual machine, we're going to be using UEFI. I recommend using UEFI if you are installing on modern hardware. MBR and BIOS are much older and kind of legacy versions of UEFI/GPT. Anyway, we're going to go ahead and follow these instructions right here. So we're going to select manual partitioning, and then we're going to create a partition that is about 4,200 megabytes. So we're going to click next. You will be greeted with this screen unless you already have. If you're installing this on your hardware, you might want to do more research on your partitioning and how your file systems are set up on your computer. It can get complicated if you're installing this on your hardware. It was for me. I will go into a video on how I did it. If you're on a virtual machine, you're going to go ahead and click Create New Partition Manager. We're going to choose GPT because we chose the UEFI setting for our virtual machine. This is going to just look like free space for now. We're going to go ahead and create a partition. We're going to format the file system to FAT32. Make sure this is about 4,200 megabytes, which is 4 gigabytes essentially. The boot point is going to be /boot, obviously. And we're going to select boot. We're going to create another partition after that with the remaining space on our virtual system, or however you want to set up your drives for your computer, if you want extra storage or main storage or whatever it is. The file system, I'm going to keep it as BTRFS, which is what I use on my computer. I don't really understand the difference between file systems. There are pros and cons to each one. Once again, go ahead and refer to the CachyOS wiki to choose your file system. The BTRFS works well for me. The mount point, we're going to go ahead and just type a slash there. That's it. And click OK. You can encrypt your drive if you like. Just, however, make sure you do not encrypt your boot drive. Otherwise, it will not boot. Go ahead and click Next. And this is where we choose our desktop environment. The one that we're going to be going with today is Plasma Desktop, which is the first one. I strongly recommend that you do research on different environments before you choose one other than Plasma. Plasma, I would say, is the most user-friendly out of all of these, at least that I've seen or tried. There are many different ones you can use. Click Next. This is where you kind of choose any additional packages you'd like. You can't choose 2 window managers together. Definitely keep everything that's checked already. Go ahead and click Next. I'm not going to be changing anything there. Type in whatever you'd like for your profile name and then your password. You can choose to have the same password as your administrator account. I recommend doing that unless you would like having 2 different passwords for more security. It is more secure. And then go ahead and just click Install once you're finished with that. I'm going to go ahead and speed this part up, but it should take just a few minutes to get installed. Alright, once you are greeted with this all done screen, that means you are all done. And you can go ahead and check mark the box called Restart Now and click Done. It'll restart your virtual machine or your computer. See, like I said, sometimes it says failed to start, generic shutdown, still shut down. This is what Limelight looks like if you end up doing a dual boot system between Windows and CachyOS. There are instructions on the desktop edition instructions or installation guide for dual booting Windows and CachyOS. I did this, and like they say, it is not 100% reliable. However, it works for me. Today, we're just going to be selecting CachyOS because that's the only one on our virtual machine. Once we get loaded in here, we'll be greeted with a login screen. I experienced some technical difficulties and I did some troubleshooting, and I discovered one thing that we have to do after we open this up. So we open this up, and before we do anything, go ahead and just press the letter E before the timer goes off, or go ahead and press the up arrow or down arrow so that it stays on the screen instead of automatically booting into CachyOS. So if you get a infinite black screen like I did just now, click E or press E on your keyboard over the CachyOS to edit this entry. This looks very scary, but literally all you gotta do is go down to this command line here and go to the word splash and just delete the word splash, and then you're gonna press F10 or whatever button it says to boot there, and then it will boot perfectly fine, just like that. And now you are on CachyOS. Congratulations, you have successfully loaded into Linux. If you are experiencing the infinite loading screen on a virtual machine, the first thing you're going to want to do whenever you get into CachyOS for the first time is go to settings, go down to colors and theme, go to boot splash screen, and change the boot splash screen to details, which is verbose fallback theme. Click apply, type in your password, and that will fix the infinite loading screen problem that I experienced in the beginning here. It will actually load much quicker now if we will go ahead and check that out. Let's power off the system and start it. Now instead of pressing E, we don't have to do anything, just let it automatically select CachyOS, and it should boot relatively quickly for you, just like that. Type in your password and you will go to the desktop here. So the first thing we're going to do is go to apps and tweaks, and if you are coming from Windows and you would like to test out any games on Linux, or test your Steam, or test anything that you want, go ahead and just click install gaming packages. Just type in your password. This may look a little scary to anybody coming from Windows who's never used a command line, but it is very simple. What we're gonna do, the default is repository 1. For this video, I'm just gonna do the default option, which is 1. You may want to do some research to see which package you should install for your hardware. The recommended repository on the CachyOS wiki is the CachyOS repository, and find the correct package for your graphics card drivers. I'm hoping that 1 is going to work for the virtual machine here. Click enter, and then you click Y or press Y, press enter, and just let this install. Once it's done, we can go ahead and test out Steam on our virtual machine. This is done. We're gonna click enter, and now you can go to CachyOS package installer, and this is where you're gonna see most programs that are very popular. There are a lot of open source free like alternative softwares to big corporation softwares that cost a lot of money. If you go to the repo here, you can search like a very wide range of softwares. Anything that you see someone using, you can usually search it in this repository here. CachyOS has a lot of programs that are kind of already pre-adapted to CachyOS, if that makes sense. Alright, so all you have to do to open Steam is type in Steam here. You can literally start typing on the desktop, and this application menu will pop up. You can actually change this to go to the center if you like. That's what I usually do. Like that. Or you can go down here, go to games, and find Steam. The Heroic Games Launcher is going to be a way for you to access any Epic Games games. And then once this is finished, and there we go, you can go ahead and sign in. I will say, if you do end up installing any games on the virtual machine, I have had trouble getting some games to run at all on the virtual machine. However, whenever I installed it onto bare metal, I was able to run those games perfectly fine with no issues. For games with a root level anti-cheat, you would have to do research to see if there's workarounds to get those games running, such as Valorant or Fortnite. Otherwise, I don't think most root level anti-cheats run on Linux. I'm pretty sure there are some developers implementing Linux compatibility, but I do not know which games exactly. I don't really play any of the very big titles that have root level anti-cheats, so I'm not really worried about that. But in the future, they could potentially adopt compatibility for Linux. From here, you can go ahead and mess around with all of the fun customization. There are tons of different things that you can do to customize everything here. Like, for example, just now, this changed the taskbar down here. This right here is the KDE Discover app, which is like the app store for KDE Plasma. It, for some reason, has not been working on the latest installations from my experience on the base installation, but you can install it separately if you look up how to do that. And that gives you access to tons of applications as well, aside from the CachyOS package manager right here, where you can install tons of stuff. I do believe in the most recent update, this popular applications tab is gone, so it'll just have the repo, which has everything the popular applications does. It's just less organized. If you want to use KDE Plasma as a tiling manager, there are plugins such as Cronkite. If we go to window management and then kwin scripts and then get new, if you install that, then you can turn KDE Plasma into a window manager with these settings here. Alright, that's gonna about wrap it up for this video. I hope you enjoyed watching. I hope this helped you in some way. If you did, please leave a like and leave a comment and let me know if you have any questions. I plan to make more tutorials in the future, along with other tech-related videos, potentially for a home server setup and other stuff potentially in the future. But yeah, see ya.